Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee. We are here for fiscal year 2022 budget hearings, specifically Council Bill 21-0080, the ordinance of estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. I'm Eric Costello, councilman from the 11th District and chair of the committee. I'm joined in chambers by Council Vice President Sharon Middleton from the 6th District, member of the committee. Also joining us is Council President Nick Mosby, Councilman Chris Burnett, 8th District, member of the committee, Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District, and Councilman Mark Conway, 4th District. Joining us on behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott is Nina Themelis and Natasha Mehew, and joining us on behalf of Council President Nick Mosby is Matt Stegman and Nikki Thompson. We are here for first session of the day, which is the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, along with the Family League of Baltimore. At 10:30, we'll have the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. 11 a.m., Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. We'll break for lunch at 12. 12:30 is the Liquor Board. 1:30, Mayor's Office of Employment Development. 2:30, Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. 3 p.m., Baltimore City Department of Recreation and Parks. 5:30 break for dinner, and 6 p.m. Baltimore City Public School System. We have Tisha Edwards from the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, as well as Damon Millard from the Family League of Baltimore in chambers with us. We're going to go to each agency for a brief presentation, and then we will go to council members for questions. Tisha, let's start off with you. Thank you.
Ms. Ferguson, could you bring up the PowerPoint, please? Thank you.
Yes, we're bringing up the PowerPoint. Thank you, Councilman. I think we're almost there. Great. Good morning, Chairman Costello, Councilwoman Middleton, and other council honorable members of the council who are participating in today's budget session. My name is Tisha Edwards. I'm the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, and I'm here this morning to talk with you about the fiscal year 22 budget for the Mayor's Office. Leah, I want to just confirm that you're on the first slide. Okay, great. So I want to start today's presentation just giving an overview. The Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success does have a fiscal budget, recommended general budget of $3 million. Our agency is still a relatively new agency. We were created in summer 2029, so going into fiscal year 2020. And we are the combination of several pre-existing agencies, including the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership, Head Start. We are also responsible for youth engagement in the city and the Children's Cabinet. Our budget is a level of service budget in terms of pretty much sustained funding from last year to this year. Next slide, Leah. I just want to lift up some of the work that we've been doing, especially as it relates to COVID-19. We're very excited about the coalition of partners and stakeholders that have been working with us within the Baltimore Children's Cabinet. The Children's Cabinet is a cabinet that primarily includes agency heads from the city and the state level, but we also have work groups that includes over 200 community partners who have helped us to shape the action plan and the 7 priorities of the Children's Cabinet. So we do have an action plan that has been supported by Mayor Scott, and we are excited that in fiscal year 2022 that we will begin to move from planning into implementation. We've also been very busy on the ground supporting the city's COVID-19 emergency food strategy. This has been an extraordinary success for our city. And again, could not have been done without many, many partners and many agencies. This is a cross-agency initiative that spans across 12 city agencies, includes more than 150 community partners and 300 food sites. We have distributed almost 9 million meals in the city of Baltimore since the beginning of COVID, and 730,000 food boxes. We are also in the process of issuing prepaid cards to some of our most vulnerable communities. We are going to be hitting 15,000 households, providing them a one-time prepaid card of $400. So when you bring all of this work together, it again has been an extraordinary effort supported by many, many individuals and a great success for our city in terms of our ability to meet the critical needs of our community. The Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success is also responsible for supporting the trauma-informed care strategy for the city. We do that in partnership as a member of the Trauma-Informed Care Task Force. I am a co-chair with Councilman Zeke Cohen, which has been an extraordinary effort of bringing together a wonderful task force filled with expertise and passion for making sure that our city is resilient and that we have a community where healing takes place and addresses issues of structural racism. Trauma-informed care is also a key priority of the Children's Cabinet, and we're very excited on some of the initiatives that we are working on directly with young people and helping to lift up how to destigmatize and promote mental health amongst our youth. And finally, in terms of work that we've been doing, we're very, very excited about the success of the Mayor's Youth Summit. This was Mayor Scott's first youth summit. We brought together more than 200 youth. We did 2 in-person sessions and a virtual session with great success. The mayor has committed to biannual youth summits where he can hear directly from young people so that they can be connected to the work that we do, inform the work that we do. And it was just a wonderful success and very proud of that work. Next slide, Leah. One of the key areas of focus for the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success is early childhood education. And we are responsible for supporting the Head Start program in Baltimore City. I'd like to acknowledge the director, Shannon Burrow-Campbell, who's just done an excellent job of administering the Head Start program, and especially during the time of COVID. We have 44 centers across the city. Baltimore City supports 759 children in our Head Start program, but when you take the entire collaborative, which includes other providers in the city, including Catholic Charities and among others, we service about 3,000 children in Baltimore City. Next slide, Leah. And the Head Start budget is primarily federal funded, and it is in the amount of $8.7 million. This has been a busy year for Head Start. Everyone knows that education and has been a real challenge for us in this virtual world, and that remains true also for our smallest babies and their parents. Virtual learning for a 3-year-old is really hard, and I'm really proud of the work that has been done by Shannon and her team and their commitment to education during the pandemic. We are open and preparing for registration for the fall and hoping to bring all of those young people and babies who want to be in an in-person environment back into our centers. But it is likely that we will have to continue with some type of hybrid type of experience for our smallest babies. Also want to just acknowledge the great work that the Head Start program is doing around trauma-informed care. This is an important priority from a programming perspective. And again, we've tapped into some expertise in the community. We've partnered with Sage Wellness to conduct a trauma-informed care audit and to develop a comprehensive plan for Head Start to be a trauma-informed organization at all levels. One of the things that we're going to be doing as a part of our COVID recovery plan is extending the hours of Head Start. We've talked to our parents to get a sense of what it is that they need in order for them to bring their children back, to address learning loss, and to support parents as they move back into the workforce. And so we are excited that we are going to have a specific number of Head Start seats where we will have an extended day and a full day program, full year program. Right now, Head Start, it only meets during the school year. There is not citywide summer Head Start. And so Shannon and her team are working very hard to make Head Start more accessible and more available as a full day, full year program. And finally, I just want to acknowledge our partnership with the Family League in terms of the work that we did together this year for the Child Care Stabilization Fund, which was funded through the CARES Act. And together with the Family League, we administered $4 million to over 300 child care providers so that they could continue to remain open and again, meet the needs of our families and our children. And that was a wonderful success, a great partnership, and really excited that we were able to support our child care providers. And finally, during this legislative session, the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success and the Children's Cabinet worked together to advocate for the Growing Family Child Care Opportunities Pilot Program, HB 944, which will provide $150,000 to individuals interested in opening family child care centers. There's still a great need for more quality structured child care in our city, and very glad to be a part of an initiative to help make that happen for Baltimore. Next slide, Leah. Next, I'd like to talk about our Community Action Partnership, which has a budget right now of about $27 million. That is an increase from last year to this year, primarily because the Community Action Partnership Centers are responsible for the city's eviction prevention program. And so the increase in funding to that agency, which is, just to be specific, last year, fiscal year 2021, the agency had a budget of $9.7 million. For fiscal year 2022, we are looking at a budget of $27 million because of an additional influx of resources to support the citywide eviction prevention program. So this has been a huge lift for this agency. We're expecting additional resources beyond what is articulated in the fiscal year 2022 budget. This is a part of a national crisis that is happening in our country, and our CAP centers are stepping up to be able to make sure that families who need energy, water, and rental assistance have that so that we can prevent homelessness in our city. Next slide, Leah. In our CAP centers, our work environment was definitely disrupted as a result of needing to close down those centers to the public. We have not been able to see clients in person since March, so we have focused on improving our access and better service through a virtual environment. We have digitized our processes. We've stood up a call center. We're providing ongoing training to our CAP Center staff, and really launched a very strong communications process with our clients. We do a lot of texting, we do a lot of emailing, and have found our clients to be very, very responsive, and allowed us to continue to meet their needs. We're very proud of the city's eviction prevention program. We've already supported more than 3,000 households in providing rental assistance, $14 million, keeping families in their homes, and again, avoiding homelessness. We are continuing to grow and expand the reach of this program. As everyone knows, the eviction moratorium is expected to be lifted in June 30, on June 30th, excuse me, not 3030, on June 30th. And so it's really important that we have the resources and the capacity to meet what we expect to be an important moment in our city. And we have been working since last year to get to this point. And we will continue to do all that we can to support any person in Baltimore who is in need of either utility or rental assistance. We are also the agency that is responsible for implementing DPW's BH2O program, which is the water bill assistance program. That is one of the other resources that we're ramping up to support families who are coming through the economic recovery because of COVID. And finally, I just want to acknowledge our partnership with the Franciscan Center and the CAP Centers. We provided the Franciscan Center with a grant that allowed them to go into encampments and other environments where city residents are experiencing homelessness. This is through one of our many partnerships with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. And to date, we've provided more than 1,800 meals to children and families who have been experiencing homelessness as a result of the partnership with the Franciscan Center. So that is my formal presentation, Councilman Costello, and I will now defer to Damon Millard from the Family League, one of our key partners in our work.
Thank you. Damon?
Mhm.
Hear me now. Very good. Good morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Marguerite. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Damon Millard, representing Family Legal Baltimore, in which we are the local management board for the city. Each jurisdiction within the state of Maryland has an entity that serves as a local management board. This is one in various capacities that could either be an arm of county government or operate independently as a nonprofit organization, as we do in this current time. And so really a lot of it is basically to provide support in interagency service delivery for children, youth, and family programming. And we've been happy to serve in that capacity with the city of Baltimore, and working very closely with the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. We house a number of initiatives that really provide the support in terms of human services for the city of Baltimore. They include the Early Childhood Advisory Council, the Baltimore Partnership to End Childhood Hunger. We co-chair the Community School Steering Committee, in which Councilman Burnett and Councilman Commun are representatives from the City Council on, and we co-chair that with Baltimore City Public Schools. And then we also provide support primarily in the area in terms of home visiting and maternal child health home visiting with the health department as a part of the home visiting advisory board as a part of the larger collective impact strategy of Be More for Healthy Babies. Primarily, the funding that we do receive from the city does provide support for the community school and out of school time program and strategy. Community schools, most of you are probably familiar with, is a strategy in which it's a set of strategic partnerships that transform a school into a hub of opportunities and resources, not only for the students of that school, but for their family members as well. And we do it through, one, a seamless access point that provide the connection to those critical resources and supports. And that's done through great partners that we call lead agencies, and that there are 33 of them that we not only look in terms of providing support within the schools, school walls, but also in terms of out of school time and expanded learning opportunities after the school day. As a part of the prioritizing our youth, service number 446 for the funding for this year for FY2022, we're looking forward to supporting 44 schools with 41 schools that will actually be serving in terms of out of school time programs. If you see in terms of the output measures below, we have a target of 23,300 students, which is primarily the enrollment. So all services within those schools are open to all students and their family members as well, but also not only to the family members, but also in terms of the community within that geographic footprint surrounding that school. The effectiveness measure is average daily attendance in the OST programs that we see as a target of 75%. Obviously, we've met some considerable challenges this year in which our partners were able to rise to the occasion and provide significant support in meeting the gap for a lot of those school communities. It came from in terms of delivering learning packets to the homes of those students, obviously in terms of providing some technology support, and then also even in terms of meal delivery for some of the family members as well. We see that a critical component in terms of the strategy is addressing issues as it relates to chronic absenteeism, in which you have community school coordinators who serve as a part of that school's school family council that really focus in terms of absences that that respective school is really dealing and addressing with at that point in time. The directed funding, we call this funder designated projects. This has been basically a long-standing relationship that we've had as directed by the Mayor and City Council to provide support specifically for ARP Foundation Experience Corps, in which they fund primarily for trained retirees to provide tutoring support for students between preschool and grades 3. And also for the University of Maryland Cooperative Extensions Program, which handles a master gardening program, which really focuses in terms of urban gardening and greening. So basically, Family League just serves in the role as a pass-through for this particular project. Expanded youth programming is really a way that we have seen in terms of being able to offer opportunities for those program providers who aren't necessarily a part of the community school strategy, but would like to offer young people and youth, and specifically older youth, an opportunity for expanded learning that's not necessarily attached to a school community. We've been doing this for, I think, over the past 5 years. And this year, we're going to have a little more of a pivot in looking at prioritizing more work around the mayor's children's cabinet, as Ms. Edwards has spoken to earlier. Our Chief Program Officer, Kalila Slater-Harrington, also serves as a co-chair for the early childhood work group within the mayor's children's cabinet. And I did touch on home visiting a little bit earlier. This is, again, a part of a larger strategy with the health department, in which maternal and child health home visiting, there are 3 programs that we specifically support. One, Drew Mondamin, Sinai Hospital, as well as Family Tree. And this is really just making sure that expected mothers and postpartum women are able to have access to key and critical care, especially early on in their pregnancy, and really with an intentional focus in making sure that children are ready to enter school by kindergarten. Again, this is a program that had to shift to a virtual model because of the respective governmental restrictions. What we have seen in the course, and you've seen in terms of the targets at 55% in terms of the number of children receiving home visiting services, and actually a screen for social emotional development at an early age. We're actually hitting on target that 100% as of Q4 that we're looking at. So actually, this has been a situation in which the virtual programming landscape has actually been beneficial in terms of what we're seeing as an uptick in our numbers for fiscal year 21. In closing, just really wanted to share that we are really pleased to have had an opportunity to have a focus as well in terms of trauma-informed care. This was really a kind of a year to really buckle down in terms of our technical assistance and professional development that we provide for partners within the network. We hosted 9 sessions specifically in terms of the area of trauma-informed care, in which we had 117 participants who have been trained. Also, we were able to leverage over $3 million in funding from the governor's office that we were able to layer to support the home visiting programs and providing housing support for mothers. This has been one considered to be a critical resource, especially in terms of issues with families that have been facing issues as it relates to eviction. Also, the home instruction for parents of preschool youth, also known as HIPPY, is a program that we're helping to expand their number of slots that they're providing that level of care for parents and students in Park Heights. Park Heights Renaissance is now going to be able to expand their capacity, and we're also planning to issue a funding for availability request specifically focused on the Cherry Hill neighborhood. Then also looking at specifically providing a opportunity for out of school time programs really geared towards high school students. That will be really centered on 5 schools within the Baltimore City School District. They include Forest Park, Frederick Douglass Academies at Frederick Douglass High School, Ben Franklin at Masonville Cove, Patterson High School, and Reginald F. Lewis, in which these students will also receive an incentive in terms of a career readiness focus and frame. And lastly, but definitely not least, will be a $1 million investment for Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, which we're really excited to really focus in terms of programming in the areas of greatest need within the city in terms of recreation centers. And I'm sure Director Moore probably can give you a lot more detail about that during his time this afternoon. So with that being said, thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Damon. Can you please take down the presentation, and then we're going to go to Council President Mosby. We've also been joined by Councilman Robert Stokes, 12th District, member of the committee, Councilman Zeke Cohen, 1st District. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, Ms. Edwards, could you elaborate on the current programs around rental assistance, what the city has been able to do over the past, say, year, as well as any future plans, any immediate future plans around rental assistance?
Thank you, Council President Mosby. Yes, happy to talk about that with you. The city has identified our Baltimore CAP centers to serve as the kind of service provider for the city's eviction prevention program. That program has provided assistance in residents are able, Council President, to receive up to 12 months rental assistance. And we have supported more than 3,000 families and gotten $14 million out of the door in support of those families. This is a, as I said, national issue. We are receiving additional funding from the Biden's plan, which are called the ERAP funding, to expand that program because the need is great in the city. We're in the third phase of this, which will include relocation assistance. It will include the ability to pay forward rent for individuals who are not able to stay in their current homes, and for whatever reason the landlord and tenant are not able to reconcile the rent arrears. We're able to support relocation cost. We're able to support case management for those families, and rent forward for this is the third version of the rental assistance program, and we are in the process of starting to process those applications for phase 3 in the next 30 days.
Ms. Edwards, when you talk about providing rental assistance for folks who are unable to pay their rent and to ensure that from a housing security perspective, we keep them in their current situation.
Mm-hmm.
With the federal moratorium on evictions and the state emergency orders and executive orders by the governor around evictions, why was that of a concern over the past year?
So the moratorium does not excuse the debt.
Correct.
So all of the moratorium does is just allow the landlord not to pursue eviction. And there have been some landlords who have found you can't evict based on non-payment of rent, but
Correct.
landlords have found other ways, unfortunately, to evict some of our most vulnerable neighbors. But the moratorium does end June 30. The
Correct.
courts will open, and we do have a protocol for any resident who receives an eviction notice to give them immediate assistance, including legal assistance, to be able to present their case and hopefully to avert eviction. So that is all referring our residents in need to legal counsel is also a part of this program, and it's legal counsel that is free and funded through the city's resources. But we are concerned that the courts are opening and that there will be a escalation of eviction cases in the coming months.
So totally agree. And this council has already taken action associated with knowing that landlords were utilizing other alternative means of trying to evict folks. So that's what we have, set forth through a just cause policy. We look forward to passing out pretty quickly. That extends the 180-day just cause protection after the emergency order is lifted. I guess back to the issue around, I think it was stated that we were providing funds for folks who were going to be evicted based off of non-payment. So that wasn't necessarily the case. It was the landlords that were kind of coming up with other non-COVID related means as to why to evict folks, and we were providing them assistance over the past year. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Understood. And moving forward, I guess there's an anticipation that once the moratorium is lifted and the executive orders go away, that there's going to be a considerable amount of increase associated with rental assistance needs in the city of Baltimore. Have you developed a model or anything of trying to project that out? If so, do you have the numbers of what we expect to see, particularly for the folks who have not been exposed to your program, who have incurred a significant amount of debt as not being able to pay their rent over the past year and a half? What is the expectation of the numbers that you guys are projecting out? And with that, what are the type of funds that we're looking to try to support folks in this arena?
So as stated in the budget, after the budget was passed, the budget book was presented, which already showed an initial $17 million in investment for the program. We have subsequently received additional federal funds to the tune, and it's noted in the budget book, of about 31 million, and we expect more funding to be available. We anticipate that this is going to be a well-funded, if you will, initiative, primarily through state and federal funding, Council President. When you talk about the modeling, what I can tell you is that we currently have about 2,000, we've paid about 3,000, we've paid 3,200 household assistance, totaling 14 million in about 6 months. We have currently an additional 2,000 households that are in the process of completing their applications. So I can't model it out for 5 years. I can tell you that the need is growing, and that we are receiving a considerable amount of state and federal funds to meet that need. The other thing the distinction I think I'd like to make for you, Council President, is it's not just new applications. People have the ability to get up to 12 months support. So you might have been 3 months behind, you paid 2 months, then you want to come back because something has happened where you're not able to pay again. So this 12-month period doesn't have to happen all at once. It can come intermittently throughout a period of time beginning in March of last year. So we are also seeing what I would call we're seeing both new applicants where they have a new situation, and we're also seeing repeat applicants where their financial situation has extended beyond the initial application period, if that makes sense. The final thing I want to say, Council President, just for the record, is that we've done a lot of work to also make sure that the immigrant community also has access to this resource. We've partnered with immigrant serving nonprofits who are great, trusted resources. A lot of times the immigrant population is not comfortable coming to city government for resources. And so we've done a very good job of connecting with organizations like CASA, the Esperanza Center, others, to make sure that we are providing services in multiple languages and that we have a trusted partner on the ground. The final thing I would say is that we are also working with United Way. United Way will also help expand our capacity. They will be working with large landlords in these multi-housing environments so that we can also meet those needs. So there are many avenues to getting access to the resources so that we have the capacity to meet what we consider to be a growing need in our city.
Understood. Now, when we talk about the 17 million that's growing into the 31 million based off of the federal support that we've already factored in, that is specific to rental assistance. Is that true or false? Or is that, I was under the impression that there were several buckets inside of that money, but that's specifically tied to rental assistance. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
When I say rental assistance, the rental assistance program includes utility assistance. It
Correct.
also includes relocation support. It also includes legal support. So there are several different ways that, not just paying someone's rent. So there are several different ways that we can help individuals who are in need based on their situation. The money does allow us to do multiple things in order to keep them in their homes.
Understood. And that's why that was my understanding when I originally went down this line of questioning. I guess the question I was having is, do we have any modeling or projections associated with folks from a numbers perspective that we expect to be displaced? And if so, do we have a specific amount of money tied into that to ensure that folks do not become homeless? That's what I'm asking. So I guess from what I'm hearing is that we know that we have 17 million that we're factoring in this budget. We expect to go to 31 million. We also expect to have additional funds to even further increase that, but that money is pretty flexible. There is not a projected amount for this specific issue that we know what's going to occur once the federal injunction is lifted and moratorium is lifted, and folks are going to start getting evicted. There is no specific money that's specifically tied to that particular issue. It's just the whole rental assistance program, and we're looking at the money in aggregate.
We are looking at the money in aggregate. When you say what should we expect, Council President, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is we receive information from DHCD regarding kind of globally what the amount of arrears that people are in their rent. I think the last number that I received, Council President, and it's been 45 days or so since I've seen the number, is about 11,000 current Baltimore residents are at least 2 to 3 months late in their arrears. What makes the modeling challenging that you're speaking to is we don't have an average. So, 4 months ago, the average was about 6 months. Now we're seeing people come back, and that average of need is expanding longer. But what I can tell you is that I have about 2,000 to 3,000 applications in queue. And what I can tell you is that data says that there's about 11,000 families behind on their rent, at least 2 to 3 months. And if we did the math and say that our average distribution to families is about $6,000, I think that's a good place to give a sense of the scope of the challenge.
Understood. Last two questions regarding this issue. How's the program marketed to our struggling families? Like for the 11,000 families out there, how would they know to apply, to come to you? Where does that take place?
So we do it all through our agencies and our partners. I mean, we're receiving on average, 200 to 300 applications a day. So I feel like there's, people do know about it, right? So can there be more marketing? Absolutely. But we are seeing that the community is aware, and we don't only use our network, we are also using our partners, like I said, United Way, our immigrant serving nonprofits. We have a good ground game, and actually we've overlaid this with the same partners that we made aware of the food program that we were running. We use that same infrastructure, those same individuals, to let them know about the rental assistance, because generally if you're coming to get food assistance from us, you probably are also
Correct.
likely, these are all the same individuals, right? If you need energy assistance, you probably do need assistance with your rent. So the universe, and Council President, we have about 20,000 individuals seeking rental assistance. Energy assistance. I apologize. So we are in the process of trying to bundle those things, meaning you apply for one thing, we automatically ask you, do you need support with the other thing? So we're building that infrastructure to do the bundling, to make sure there's one entry point where you apply for one, you don't have to keep reapplying over and over again, and that you are offered other services once you enter the door. And so all of that is happening, but there is extraordinary need. I do think that we're reaching the community. The CAP centers are a known, familiar resource, especially for energy assistance. And so we've kind of leveraged that infrastructure, those relationships, to launch the eviction prevention program.
Got it. Now, from a infrastructure, personnel, resource perspective, outside of just sheer money, Ms. Edwards, do you think that we're prepared for the exponential increase of need that we're going to see come July, August, September, after the moratorium is lifted?
We are getting there as quickly as we can, Council President. It is a big lift from a technology perspective, right? To be able to just actually process the applications and meet all of the guidelines from the federal government. We have 100% of our staff at the CAP centers devoted to eviction prevention. We are hiring additional temporary staff to be able to support this. But every funding source has different rules. I think that's really been the biggest change, is that this is a very dynamic program, right? We've had 3 different funding sources, and all 3 have had different rules. So you have to retrain, you have to refresh the technology to be able to capture new rules and new information. So it is, it is a challenge. I don't want to say that it's not. It really is a challenge, but we have a great team of people who are committed, and we are growing that capacity. That's why we brought on United Way, to be able to handle the landlord bundles and to take that out of the city's infrastructure to address that capacity issue that you're referring to. But
How many folks do you have tied to this, Ms. Edwards?
everybody, me plus everybody. I would say for just eviction prevention, I would say about 30 people full-time every day. Then we have another 30 or so on energy assistance. So
Wow.
that's about 60. And I'm preparing to hire, let's call it 20 more people within the next 60 to 90 days.
Understood. And Mr. Chair, thank you for the deference and providing me the opportunity. One last question, Ms. Edwards. Does the money from rental assistance go directly to the landlord? That's how it's a relationship directly with the landlord.
Correct.
So the renter applies, gives you all the information, then you go verify with the landlord and then write a check directly to the landlord.
That's exactly right. And the provisions do allow us, in certain circumstances, if the landlord is unwilling to participate, we do have the authority to provide the resources directly to the tenant if needed, and or support the tenant in relocation. If there's, again, a dispute between the landlord and the tenant that cannot be resolved. And you should also know, Council President, that with this third set of funding that we are initiating, all landlords are required to sign a grant agreement, which says that they will not evict for the period of at least 60 days after receiving funding from the city's eviction prevention program. So there are some protections that we do have in place through our grant agreement.
Okay, and for those in need that are listening or will listen to this, do you have a website or phone number that they can contact to get
Yes, sir.
information?
For phone, we do have a call center, 410-396-9555. And our website is BeMoreChildren.com, and it's right there on the homepage of the website at BeMoreChildren.com.
Thank you so much for all your detailed answers.
Yes, sir.
Tisha, no questions on my end. Just want to thank you for everything that your office is doing. I want to take a moment to thank Leah Ferguson, who's doing great work, and really appreciate the fact that you've, continued to wear a half dozen hats at any given time in the city. So appreciate everything, and also especially the food distribution program that you all propped up on the fly during the pandemic. I know a lot of communities were deeply appreciative of that. Damon, great work at Family League. Love what you're doing. Can you give me just a brief overview of our community school portfolio and how things are going?
Sure. So, as you know, with the previous, I think 2 legislative sessions ago, was the passage of the Bridge to Kerwin funding, which also allowed for Baltimore City Public Schools to serve in the capacity as a backbone support in terms of direct funding for community schools. So we've been working very closely with the school district, and really in terms of there was a choice that was made for school principals if they wanted their community school portfolio to be administered by Baltimore City Public Schools or by Family League. They had that choice to do so. And so we were able to maintain basically in terms of our level portfolio at 44 schools. Obviously, I think we have the closure of Guilford, so that was a reduction of one particular school. But in that stead, we've been really partnering closely with the school district just to make sure that there is a much more streamlined way of bringing on and orienting the new community school coordinators. So there is a lot of coordination that has to take place just to make sure that one portfolio school doesn't receive one level of training and then it's different from another. So that has been a process, but I think we're doing a better job in terms of smoothing that out and having better coordination as a part of that effort. And so we are level funded for this year. So our plan is obviously to support each of those partners, those 34 agencies, as well as the ones that are responsible for running the OST programs as well. I do know that there will be a number of schools that will go out for RFP that are looking for new partners, as well as OST programs. We really try to work closely in terms of with the principals, as well as the partnership office at Baltimore City Schools, just to make sure in terms of the needs within that school community are being met. And that's also included as a part of that solicitation. So that way there is a solid consensus to meet the needs for that surrounding community. So for all intents and purposes, we're looking forward to a return in which we're just gearing up our coordinators to make sure the partners are prepared best to receive students.
Mr. Chair, you're muted.
Tight. I just figured that out. My apologies, guys. No cuts to the any of the 5 schools in the Promise Heights portfolio in Central West.
No, sir.
Appreciate you taking care of Promise Heights. My folks there appreciate it, and that's the gold standard for community schools as far as I'm concerned. Thanks for all your great work, Devon. Appreciate it. Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess first is just my comment. I know I'll start with the Family League and just make a comment that you have just been a wonderful partner, Damon, you and your team through many years of just helping nonprofits within communities, especially our impoverished communities. The grant funding that you offer really goes a long way in our communities, and the services you provide, and your partnership with the Office of Family and Children's Success just shows that. And also with Tisha, as our chair has mentioned, you have just worn and continue to wear and help several hats that continue to push and help the needs of the families and children in our community. And I know you kind of briefly, Tisha, mentioned, our CAP centers, and I'm just proud to be the vice chair on the board of the CAP Center, and also my colleague Robert Stokes is a member of that board as well. And we have been virtually through this COVID, going through several days and hours of just working to, and I'm sharing this with the committee, to just rebranding, remarketing, re-energizing, and reimagining the whole CAP Center philosophy, and just proud to say that there is going to be some wonderful things that's going to be happening with the CAP Center, and the leadership and the training that has been taking place has just been so phenomenal. So just wanted to really give that shout out for that particular group. I know that people know the CAP Center, as you had mentioned, for energy assistance, housing, just everything you can think of. And we're working hard to try to make sure we get more locations. I mean, it's, Tisha, you have just really been a wonderful leader
Thank you.
in making sure that whole process goes through properly. And also your team, everyone has just been so dedicated to the success of the CAP Center. And I'll stop there. If either of you want to add a comment to either one of those comments.
So I'll just start by reiterating the partnership between the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success and the Family League. Our office is stronger, better as a result of the relationship that we have with the Family League and Damon's leadership and just willingness to be lock in step with us in anything that the city needs in order to support children and families. So I'm very grateful for that. We're in complete alignment. We meet on a regular basis, and I think our work will continue to be stronger as a result of the type of partnership that we share. Before I defer to Damon more to talk more specifically about that in terms of the CAP centers, Councilwoman Middleton, I do want to thank you for agreeing to be on the board, and so has Councilman Stokes. You've been extraordinary board members, and I'm glad that you're lifting up the reimagining of our CAP centers. We believe that the CAP centers are the heart and soul of the city and are at the center of the city's anti-poverty strategy. That's the vision. And we want to provide excellent customer service. We want to provide robust benefits access. And we have a great team. I cannot take credit for it. We have a great team at the CAP centers who are doing great work. Everyone from our HSW1s to our emergency energy assistance program team, all the way up to the CAP center director, Angela Whitaker. They are a great team. They are stepping up to the challenge. The rental assistance program has been a huge shot in the arm for the CAP centers. It's been very challenging, but we are very, very committed to this work. And we're excited and honored to be able to do this work on behalf of the city. So thank you for your leadership on the CAP Center board, Councilwoman Middleton and Councilman Stokes. We got a lot more to do. There's a lot of work in terms of improving to meet that vision, but it is happening and we are so committed. And I just want to thank you for publicly acknowledging the hard work of our staff in our CAP centers. They never got the option to telework. They've been coming to work every single day. They've been processing applications every single day, and they've been stepping up to the new expectations that we have for that agency. So thank you so much, Councilwoman Middleton, for acknowledging that and being a part of that process to be better. Damon?
So I just want to say thank you, Madam Council Vice President, for your support in terms of the work, and obviously with the work that we do in terms of investments within the 6th District and citywide. I'd just like to say it's just been great to have a thought partner within City Hall. The Office of Children and Family Success really has been really engaged. Not only Tisha provides a strong voice on our board of directors, but an opportunity to really have a chance to troubleshoot when we're faced in addressing challenges, especially as it relates to COVID. A number of our partners were knocking on our doors and filling up our inboxes in terms of guidance. And Tisha was right there and available to provide that insight with the Mayor and City Council as being a key funder to allow us to be able to make the changes in the scopes of work that was needed to best support our partners and to do it quickly. And so that's not something that should go very lightly when it comes to 100 North Holiday Street, from my experience. And so it has been a very welcome breath of fresh air. But also we have a lot of courageous conversations as well. And in having an accountability partner, which is critically important, but to also make sure that when I had referenced some of the state investments, that we're not leaving any dollars on the table that could be best used by our communities. And so Tisha's definitely and Leah are key parts of that process. And so it's really been extremely helpful just to be able to have this partnership over the past couple of years.
Thank you both. A great example of elected city officials and nonprofits working together to improve this city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Councilman Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first, maybe just statement to Ms. Edwards and Damon. Thank you for all you do. I done worked on some projects with Damon, and I'm glad your office is in the 12th District, Damon, too. Ms. Edwards, I know how hard it is during the pandemic when you trying to roll out that kind of money, and I know how hard your staff work. I've seen them in working, doing the work, so I just want to congratulate you both on that. My first question is for you, Ms. Edwards. I know Council President Mosby asked all the questions, so I really, he got to the down to the root. But my question is, are we working closely because of the courts open back up? Are we working closely with the courts when people evictions are now going to start coming into the courthouse? And do you have a dedicated staff person? I don't know if you do that it's actually at the courthouse all the time to catch that?
Thank you for that question, Councilman Stokes, because it is important. We are working in partnership with the courts. We've been meeting with them on a regular basis since we initiated our rental assistance program. We have hired or are hiring a housing stability coordinator. She begins on next Monday, and her primary focus is just that, housing stability. So she will be working with the legal team to make sure that anyone who does need legal services has access to the legal team, relocation services, and coordination with the courts to make sure that we have a process to fully support anyone who might be facing eviction. So you asked the right question. We're very excited about this new dedicated staff person where this is her full-time job, which is to support housing stability in our city.
Well, thank you. And Ms. Evans, if it's a schedule, because I know you probably got somebody dedicated to the East Side Courthouse, do you?
I don't know the schedule, but I can follow back with you on that, Councilman.
Because I'd like to just stop in there and meet the person, just see how that operates, because even though your office is doing that part, they might need some other assistance from the city. And if I can get maybe my staff just to stop in and see how that whole operation work.
Yeah, I will
Maybe
get
get-
information. Yes, I will get information. I don't know that the person will be housed there. We are
Right.
in conversations with both the sheriff's office and the judges who see these cases, and we have a legal team to support families. So I'm not 100% sure that the person will actually be housed there every day, but I will make sure that I connect you, especially since you're a board member. I'll make sure that I connect you
Thank
to
you.
the individuals so that you can have direct access to them and more details about how that coordination with the courts works, because that is the next phase of this now that the courts are starting to open up.
Thank you. My next question is for Damon. How you doing, first of all, sir? Keep up the good work. I know all the partnerships. We done worked on some projects together. And I know you're talking about the trauma-informed care, and a lot of times we deal with the young people. Are we actually, your office is kind of reaching out to the whole family? Because the trauma-informed care was happening before a pandemic, you know? So we target the young people, but what about the families? And I'd like to work with you on that because I have some families in my district. It's not just the children, it's the whole family. And I know that's something that you do, that you already do, but I like to kind of lend my support about the whole family in dealing with trauma-informed care, not just the young people that had trauma from in-house schooling. So we talking about trauma started way before that. We talking about
Sure.
food desert trauma. We talk all that real kind of systemic racism trauma. So our trauma for Black people didn't start when we had a pandemic. It was way before that. So we got trauma piled on top of trauma, and it's still piling. So I want to work closely with you like we always have to find out how I can help out in terms of really reaching out, knocking on them doors, because we have to get into those households. And if we're not doing that, we still gonna have some of the issues we have, especially in the poor Black neighborhoods.
Yes, sir, and totally understood, and you're absolutely right in terms of the multi-generational challenges that obviously that manifest in various ways, whether it's food apartheid within our communities, disinvestments that we've seen over the course of decades, and so we do support and house also the local care team, which is one a little known, unfortunately. one driven by state mandate that each jurisdiction must have one to provide that level of support and services for families that are in crisis. And we've been working in terms of one, again, with Tisha's shop to do a better job in standing that up and making sure that more families are aware of it to be able to access those resources. And again, this is all funded by way of the state. So definitely would like to spend some time with you to share more about that, the structure, but also in terms of the all the various agencies that provide family services that are around the table that could help in terms of, the mechanisms of referral for your respective constituency.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Stokes. And wait, you're on. You muted yourself.
No, I called you, Mr. Chair. I forgot you were chair, and I had to change it to Madam Chair. My apologies.
And thank you for coming in at 11:30. As you all know, we're all multitasking. So our chair, Councilman Costello, has stepped away, and I'm filling in for a time. And just to keep everybody on schedule, remember at 10:30 we have the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. So the next council person that has questions on my list that was given to me from Chair Costello is Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My Wi-Fi is bugging out this morning, so I'm just going to do audio for this part. Good to see you all. The question I had was for Ms. Edwards. I appreciate all of the amazing work that you all are doing, especially just want to reiterate with Madam Vice President said earlier, you were able to stand up that food distribution system in a SNAP, along with another number of other partners, but really taking the lead on that, and the communication was excellent at working with the council and helping us push out notice to our communities on how to get connected and doing all of this in the global pandemic. I know it's taken a lot out of yourself and your staff, but just want to say thank you to you all, as well as to Demond and the Family League, in sort of making the switch to a virtual environment on the SNAP, and making sure our young people are still getting the education and out of school time that they need. So I just want to say thank you to all of you and your partners. My question was for Ms. Edwards, and this is just more, I'm in full agreement with the direct cash assistance program. Can you speak about, just from a theory perspective, or theoretical perspective, of why it's important to provide that direct assistance and that flexibility, just so people understand why that program is so critical? Because I was really excited to see that roll out as a proponent of that sort of model of assistance, but just wanted to hear from your words and your perspective on why it really matters.
So first of all, I want to say that the debit cards actually align with a bigger vision that the mayor has for Baltimore. As you know, and the public may know, that the mayor has said that there will be a guaranteed income pilot in Baltimore. And there are many cities across the country, particularly urban cities, that are really advocating for, if you want to help people out of poverty, the best way to do that is cash, right? Cash in hand. That's the most efficient programming that you can provide a family. As it relates to the debit cards, we're really excited about this initiative, Councilman Burnett, because it has been met with such success. We committed to 15,000 cards for at $400 per card. And to your very important question of why is this important and why is it the right thing to do? Because every family has different needs. And part of being able to support people who are struggling, and to do that from a place of dignity and agency, is giving people the resources they need to do what they need to do. If I am a family who's struggling, what I may need is, internet for my house, or what I may need, my family may be on a special diet, and the food that we're providing in our emergency food program is great. It's a wonderful place to start. But if I have religious needs that drive my diet, if I have health needs that drive my diet, I may not get exactly what I need. And so this is really grounded in dignity. It's grounded in people having agency over their own lives. It's about equity. You and I can go to the grocery store and we can go get whatever we need on that day at any given time for our families. A lot of times, uh, folks who are dealing with concentrated poverty, they are denied choice. They are denied the ability to make decisions that are in the best interest of their family. They might need to have a prescription filled that has a copay. You can't get that through the food program. You can't get that through the rental assistance program. So we see the debit cards as a complementary resource that aligns very nicely with everything that we have done as a city for the COVID response, but is also the beginning of a larger opportunity that Mayor Scott has said that he wants to drive for the city around equity and economic prosperity. And we're very excited that we were able to do the debit cards, but we're super excited that very soon in the fall, the mayor will be launching the guaranteed income program, which will further demonstrate how important it is putting cash in people's hands in order for them to be able to meet the needs, the specific needs that they have for their families.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I again fully agree that that's the right thing to do. And so I'm excited to see that program move forward in the fall. The second question I had was around just sort of I know you all have been doing a tremendous amount of work and outreach to our young people, particularly the most hot button issue has been the work around squeegee workers and sort of that just being, a large narrative around the city. But can you lift up a lot of the work that you all have been doing in your office to work with these young people, these young entrepreneurs who are, obviously trying to, again, meet that need? I talked to a few of them that and have actually helped some families in my district that we were actually connected through a squeegee worker who we found out, the mother had 7 other kids, and he was sort of trying to do his part in that work. And clearly there was as we went down the rabbit hole, found that there was some housing instability issues, employment issues that this 8-year-old kid was trying to supplement in his own household, which was just crazy for me to even hear a child that young trying to, do his part or being forced to really do his part. Can you just lift up the work that's been done there and really where you want to go with it? You don't even have to just keep it around the squeegee worker issue, but just generally that sort of wraparound support for young people who, clearly need money and need to be able to provide for their families or help and uplifting their families.
Thank you for raising that issue, Councilman Burnett. And I will say that I'm joined here in the chambers by Director Dr. Bunley, who I'm sure is going to talk in more detail about it. The African American Male Engagement Team has been the lead for implementing the Squeegee Alternative Plan. But what we have really tried to communicate in the city is that squeegeeing activity is a manifestation of concentrated poverty. Those young people who are on our corners are there because A, they're trying to do the right thing, and B, they are suffering, many of them, from issues of housing instability, food insecurity. Many of these young men, oftentimes under the age of 18, are being pushed into a situation where they are trying to be the providers for their families. And that we don't want that in our city. We want young people to be able to reach their full potential, and we want a city that really meets the needs, particularly financial pressures that many of our young people are facing. So we have been implementing the Squeegee Alternative Plan. We have some great successes of young men that we've been able to take off of the corner and put them into workforce programs. Even here in our city, we have several young men who are a part of the YH2O program being offered at DPW to get them jobs in city government. We're looking to expand those kinds of opportunities. What we're really, the problem we want to solve is a problem of poverty. And that's why all of these things connect in terms of the debit cards and the need to implement the guaranteed income program, because it's all about concentrated poverty. That's the challenge, and structural racism. And the squeegeeing activity is the result of those weaknesses in our city that we're all trying to work through. We're very proud of the fact that many of those young men, we've given mentors. We are helping to connect them with services. And the goal is to get them off of those corners and into sustainable employment opportunities. They need money. Their families need money, and they are not connected to the workforce. And unfortunately, sometimes not connected to our educational system. So we have to meet them where they are. We have to give them another opportunity, because we don't want them on corners. We want them involved in activities, school or work, that will allow them to be able to have sustainable opportunities that will propel them forward, so that they can reach their full potential. That's really the work that we need to do. And I'm very excited that Dr. Bunley has been doing that work. And I'm sure that he will talk in more specifics about that during his presentation. But thank you for lifting that up as a critical body of work that we've been working on for over a year now. And we still have a long way to go, especially in the summer. We see those kids popping up on more corners. So we've got to get more aggressive and provide more opportunities. And I'm confident that Dr. Bunley is in fact going to do that.
Thank you, Director Edwards, and thank you, Councilman Burnett, for your questions.
Madam Chair, I just want to take a moment to recognize we have City Administrator Chris Shorter with us on the call. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then next we have in line for questions, Councilwoman Porter. Councilwoman Porter, do you have a question? Councilwoman Porter going once, going twice. We'll come back if we have time, and we'll move to Councilman Conway. Councilman Conway, do you have a question? Going once, going twice. Now we'll move, next on the list is Councilman Cohen. Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Got it.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
These mute buttons still tough, even this far out. First off, thank you. I want to say thank you to Damon. Always great. You know, just want to say the work that community school coordinators did during the pandemic, I think, was incredible. Across the city, we know that they were some of the unsung heroes, whether it was food distribution, whether it was connecting families with internet. I think, you know, Baltimore is so proud of its community school strategy, and this pandemic proved exactly why. So, you know, props to you and your team. Director Edwards, also, you know, just want to thank you for really stepping into the breach when you took on homelessness, when you took on food distribution, still doing all the work with Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. And something that I've seen you do extremely well throughout your tenure is partnerships. You know, I think the Vice President mentioned it. I think other folks had mentioned using that leverage is just so critical with the office that you have. And I've seen you do that extremely well. Also, thank you for your partnership on the Trauma-Informed Care Task Force. Also to our colleague, Councilmember Ramos, who's on there as well. Proud that Baltimore's first in the country to be fully trauma-informed, and now Maryland has become a trauma-informed state. So thank you for that. Director Edwards, could you talk a little bit about our subpopulation of children who are chronically disconnected, be it young people who are chronically truant, young people, our population of undocumented and often unaccompanied or sometimes unaccompanied minors, as we see increased immigration within our system, and just some of the systems that you have built to support our children that are really struggling and are sort of in that bottom quartile in terms of resources and access. What are we doing to help make sure those kids do not slip through the cracks?
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. This is a really growing population in our city. We have way too many young people who are out there on their own for a variety of different reasons, you know, and the only way that we can meet them where they are is through coordination and partnership, both in city government and outside of city government. And I think what the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success is doing, as you have said, this is not about one agency. This is how an agency connects with the community. And we work very, very closely with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. They are leading our youth homelessness work. We've received an influx of resources to support those young people. There are great partners who are emerging in the youth homelessness space that we're connecting to. As I communicated earlier, we are doing a lot of work to become much better at supporting immigrant families. I want to thank Catalina, who has been a great partner in driving that with us and helping us make the connections and making sure that we're accessible to young folks. We're working with the Department of Juvenile Services. Many of our disconnected youth, unfortunately, have also been connected to our criminal justice system, and so we need to go there. We have a very strong partnership with the Department of Social Services, who is responsible for our foster care youth. That is another population. And so it's really about just making sure we're all on the same page, leveraging resources. A good example is the debit cards. We were having a real hard time getting debit cards to unaccompanied minors and to the immigrant community and to the LGBT community youth. And so immediately we called those individuals and said, this resource is for those young people. We need help getting to them. We've been making calls. We've brought those partners to the table. And, you know, we were able to distribute almost 300 debit cards to these young people that you've identified that are super vulnerable and not connected. So it's all about relationships, and it's all about understanding that one agency can do it alone. And what my goal is for the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success to always be a model agency for relationships and partnerships, for the reasons you just identified, that we have to be very grassroots and we have to penetrate the government infrastructure to be able to support our young people. So the way that we solve for that, Councilman Cohen, is we have to have a big tent. We have to invite people to the conversation, and we have to leverage their relationships, because we will never be the go-to agency necessarily for the immigrant community. That's okay. We don't have to be that, but we have to partner with the individuals that are the go-to. We have to share in resources. We have to learn from them. We don't need to be everything. What we need to have is a very inclusive footprint that includes leveraging all of those relationships so that we can extend our work into the community. And so we really take that very seriously, that connection, that relationship piece, that partnership piece. And we're trying to do it in city government, but also outside of city government, because there's so much power in community in Baltimore. So we have to leverage that if we're going to be successful.
Yeah, thank you, Director Edwards. I'm going to forgo my second question because I think Councilmember Ramos wants to get in, but do just want to say, I think we definitely need to pay attention coming out of this pandemic. I think we've lost a lot of young people just in terms of falling off from school, falling off from systems. So I think now is a really critical moment to make sure we identify all of our young folks who are chronically truant or who are just struggling, and make sure we've got the kind of wraparound supports so that they don't fall by the wayside.
I agree.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Thank you, Damon, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. And we're now at 10:31, and Dr. Bunley is here waiting, but we'll go ahead and get this one last question in for Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate it. Thanks to my colleague, Councilman Cohen. Thank you, Director Edwards, obviously, for everything that you've done. Just a side note, Council President Mosby asked all of my rental assistance questions. I really appreciate that, Council President. I think that's a huge issue that we're all concerned about. And of course, Tisha and her team have done a good job. Quick two questions. One is, we heard from Alice Kennedy, Commissioner Kennedy, the other day that her program with the food boxes is going to end in October. I'm hoping that your program is not, and that it'll keep going, because food insecurity is still happening even after the pandemic. Do you know when that's going to end?
Thank you for lifting that up, Councilwoman Ramos. I do not have an end date. We have a responsibility to report out to the city administrator and the mayor's executive team on what we consider to be a recommendation for next steps. And ultimately, that group, the executive team, finance, and those of us who are leading the work will come together to determine what is the appropriate next steps. I will say this, Councilwoman Ramos, just so that we are clear. The first thing is that we're really excited that we are now going to see an increase in EBT cards, where many families are going to receive an additional subsidy this summer to support food insecurity. Every Baltimore City family is eligible for increased funding through the EBT program. The other thing is that we are now also seeing a really strong registration for our SNAP program, which is funded by the federal government, and the sustainability and really meeting the need of food insecurity. One of the pillars, not the everything, but one of the pillars is that we really want to make sure every family who is eligible for SNAP is enrolled in the program. It's not the only thing that we need to do. The city also has a responsibility to support this issue, but I do just want to lift up that we do have those federal resources that we want to make sure families are taking advantage of, that will go way beyond COVID to help this issue. And so we are doing a lot of outreach work to make sure that families are taking better advantage of the SNAP benefits that are being made available to them.
I have 2 food distribution sites in my district. They do a great job. So any information should probably be put in those boxes as they are distributed. I'll take my other questions offline in deference to making sure we're all on time. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. And thank you so much, Director Edwards and your team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ramos.
Oh, go ahead.
Councilwoman Ramos, thank you for taking it offline. Appreciate that. Madam Vice President, thanks for stepping in there. Tisha, Damon, colleagues, we're good with Tisha and Damon? Outstanding. You guys are awesome. Appreciate all your hard work.